Welcome to season 2 of The Corporate Life, where we elevate the game for businesses and their top level executives and corporate leaders. If season 1 was about living a fantastic corporate life, season 2 is about going deeper into the realms of big financial achievements and profound work satisfaction. Hi, I'm Hina Siddiqui, your host and a seasoned corporate warrior who's danced between loving and hating her corporate roles for years. I get it. The highs, the lows, the challenges, and the triumphs. In season 2, we are bringing you unique insights, powerful tools, and inspiring conversations with experts and thought leaders in the corporate industry. So whether you are a top-level executive, a business owner, or someone aspiring to reach those heights, fasten your seatbelts. This season is your passport to conquering the corporate world with financial heroism and unwavering work fulfillment. Let's redefine success together. Hi, this is Hina Siddiqui, and you are listening to the Corporate Life podcast. We all want to be rich and fulfilled, both at the same time. And what can crack that code? I believe that we are going to get that answer in today's conversation with Corey Poirier as we talk about his new book, The Enlightened Passenger. Corey Poirier is a multiple-time TEDx speaker. He's also the host of the top-rated Let's Do Influencing radio show. Welcome to the show, Corey. It's great to have you.
Oh, thank you so much. I am super excited to be here.
Corey, your bio is extremely interesting and impressive, of course, and I would have loved to read it out all, but it would be even more interesting to hear from you about yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I guess a little bit about me. I guess not most important, but where it all started is I grew up in a very small town. I barely graduated high school, so I got a 49 plus 1 in a class that I needed a 50 in, meaning the teacher gave me the plus 1 to graduate. I left high school without knowing the difference between fiction and nonfiction, which is kind of ironic now, writing books. I didn't read my first book until age 27. So that's a little bit about my backstory. And I really grew up thinking that growing up in a small town was, I guess we'll say, an obstacle, that I wouldn't be able to achieve certain things. And I was told that directly by many people. And I decided that partially intentionally and partially just probably by accident, that wasn't good enough. Like I wasn't happy with a life where I just accepted that I couldn't do things. And so I moved across the country a couple of times, and I basically just pursued what I wanted to pursue. And the end result is I had a lot of setbacks, a lot of challenges, a lot of rejection, a lot more no's than I think people realize now along the way, like asking, hey, how about this idea? And people saying, no, that's not a good idea. I had a lot more of that than people realized. But what happened over time, because I just never gave up, eventually I got to this stage where I am now, where I've had the opportunity to, I guess, enjoy a lot of adventures that I, again, likely probably in most cases wouldn't have. Like I was told it was not that possible. Obviously, it's changed a lot over the years because now we're in a connected world and things are online. It was obviously harder when I started. But since that time, I found my way into stand-up comedy. So I ended up performing 700 stand-up comedy shows over 9 years.
That's really interesting.
It's totally at a left field, like it's totally in a different direction. But I was always a writer, and I was always into art and creating. So I had two lives. I'm a Gemini, so I feel like I had two twins. One was the female who was artistic, and the male side of my life is business oriented and practical. And so, which by the way, I think allowed me to write the book the way I did, this new book. But I was writing music at age 12. I was performing in clubs by about 19 or 20, releasing CDs, music CDs at about 22. I wrote my first book around 27, and I started doing stand-up comedy around 27, 28. So these things all were inevitable, and they all connected together. But now, because I don't do any of those, the art side, it seems kind of weird and random. But at the time, it made sense. I also practiced yoga like 6 days a week for a lot of years, and don't do that as much anymore. Started meditating when I was 20. And these are all things that were very unlike me before that, because I say today, still to this day, I'm a spiritual skeptic. So more and more I believe stuff is really happening for me, but I still am a skeptic in the sense that I'm like, okay, but which of the stuff is really truly happening and which stuff is just random and which stuff is not really happening anyway? Like, I still struggle with the idea of when people talk about like astral projection, where they can say they can like go right now and fly up to the moon without their body and go look at the moon and fly back down. I'm still skeptical on those things. So that was a long way to say my life has been very adventurous and took a lot of turns that allowed me to get to where I am today. And I believe the stand-up comedy I mentioned, the music, talking to an audience in between songs as a musician, performing stand-up means you're communicating to an audience. I believe all that stuff led me to where I'm at today. And without that stuff, I couldn't be where I'm at today. So hopefully that kind of gives a bit of a weird about how it's all come together.
I can relate with that because I think there's always a different path to go from point A to point B, and it's never a straight path for sure. And whatever we experience in our life, like random things happening, lots of adventures going on, but every random thing is preparing us for where we are meant to be.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think that I didn't, again, same idea. I didn't realize it at the time, but I saw this great talk one time by Steve Jobs that was called, I don't know if he called it this or somebody else did, but they called it joining up your dots. And the idea is that he could find out these 3 dots when he went back to his life. If you put a dot in these places that were responsible for who he became later, like, creating the iPad, the iPhone, all that stuff. And part of it involved him getting fired from Apple. So, of course, he didn't want to get fired from Apple. That was his baby. And he was mad about it at the time and got depressed. But he knows now, or, knew later, that was necessary. So what ended up happening is he got kicked out of his own company by the guy who he hired. But then he went and founded this thing called Nex. And then that company, Apple, needed a product they had, and they couldn't operate with this new technology without it. So they had to actually convince him to come back and work for them. And at that time, by then he had created Pixar, and he was the largest individual shareholder in all of Disney. So he had all these experiences and came back to Apple, being begged to go back to the company that he was miserable that he got fired from because of all the things that happened after that. But if he wouldn't have got fired, all those things probably wouldn't have happened. And we might not be holding an iPhone right now. So it's, and that's just one of his 3 dots. But my point of that is, and what you said is these things that happen every day to us, the good, the bad, what have you, I think is preparing us for the next part of our journey.
Yes. And every success story is also a story of failure, multiple failures. And of course, I don't believe in anything called failure. It's just kind of data that we are getting to operate on.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Corey, your new book has a really interesting and unique title, The Enlightened Passenger, the flight that changes everything. And I'm curious, what made you have this title?
So this is where it gets interesting because honestly, like as far as the title itself, where it came from is I came up with the idea for the story before the title. And so I knew I wanted the story to take place between 2 strangers. I didn't know where, like I didn't know if it was a restaurant, on a train, what have you. And then I was flying one day and I was like, you know what? This is the perfect place for it to take place. And I think it was triggered by somebody having a conversation with me on a plane. And I was the reluctant person that didn't really want to have the conversation. I'm a bit of both passengers, by the way. I don't like the other passenger. He's more arrogant than I think I was, but I still thought I knew it all. And I still didn't want to talk to strangers on a plane and all that stuff. So I was sitting on a plane having this conversation with a person. And after that flight, I was like, you know what? That's the ideal place for this conversation, for this book to take place, is on a plane, because I'm on planes all the time. And then that made it easier to come up with the concept of a title. Now, the passenger part came up easy. And then the part about the enlightened side, I was like, to me, enlightenment can be every day we're getting closer to enlightenment. Like, it's not necessarily, I don't think of like you start today and then tomorrow you're enlightened. Like, I don't think it's a jump. I think it's a long walk. And so I felt the word enlightenment worked because it was like, in the book, you could argue who's the enlightened passenger, meaning Treb, who's the older passenger, who's actually the wise passenger who's teaching Robert stuff, obviously would be the natural one. You say he's the enlightened passenger because he's already close to enlightenment and all that. But then you could argue Robert, by the end of the flight, is more enlightened than he was when he started. So is he the enlightened passenger? And so I like the word enlightenment because it means more than one thing.
Yeah.
And it's not permanent. It's not like, okay, you've arrived and you're done. You can just retire now. And so the idea came though after I knew that it was going to be on a plane, and that's when I realized it was going to be a passenger. But instead of saying like the Enlightened Passengers with an S, I wanted the reader to wonder who is really the Enlightened Passenger. Like, which one is it? Or is it the writer? Or is it the person that just read the book?
Yeah, that's really intriguing.
So that's ultimately, I think the title, when I came up with it, was even more meaningful than I realized at the time. Like when I first came up with it, I'm like, oh, who is the Enlightened Passenger? I'd like people to wonder. But then, like I said, as I started exploring, I'm like, oh, this is cool because it can literally be anybody. Truthfully, it could be the person that gets the book and doesn't read it, but says, oh, this would be a perfect book for my cousin, and hands it to them. Now they're the Enlightened Passenger because they've passed the book along to that person. You can decide what the meaning is of it.
Yeah, I love that insight. For long years, I believed that being money-minded was a bad thing, so I kept on avoiding money. In every job interview, I hesitated to negotiate salary and turned down every opportunity to make money. Even my coaching business functioned as a free service for a long time because the reason I got into coaching was to serve people. Then I started realizing the side effects of my wrong money mindset. Thanks to my coaches and mentors who set me up for money inflow while serving the world. Whatever career you are into, if your money mindset is distorted, you are going to struggle in your career. And the amazing fact is that you would not even realize that you are sabotaging your full potential, because all this happens at the sub and unconscious level. Your money stories are deep-rooted, particularly if you have seen a money-deprived childhood. The solution is to identify your patterns and let them go as fast as you can, because it's costing you your career. That's why the money mindset is a big part of all my coaching programs. Send me a quick mail to connect@authorhina.com to know more about my programs. What are you talking about in this book?
So the book itself is built around 10 life lessons, and the life lessons essentially are around multiple things, but there are 10 life lessons that Trevor, the older character in the book, learned on his journey. So he's like a speaker, a writer, like an author. In a lot of ways, he followed the journey I had. So he's like influencing or trying to impact lives in a positive way. So in the journey to Robert, what it is Treb is sharing his life story. And in that life story, he's sharing stories and examples, mini stories and examples of how we can work these lessons into our life. So for example, in the early part of the book, he talks about synchronicity. And, some people believe in synchronicity, some people don't. Some people don't know what I'm talking about when I say synchronicity. So to make it easy, I'll say some people call it a coincidence. And what I like is so James Redfield, who wrote the Celestine Prophecy, I did some work with him, and I like what he calls it, which is meaningful coincidences. Because then it doesn't matter whether it's coincidence or not, it's just whether or not it has meaning to you. But the point is, in the book, how it's played out is the character, Treb, tells the story about when he was on a flight, seated next to James Redfield, who wrote the Celestine Prophecy, and then he got to learn about synchronicity directly from him. So by the way, the book is loosely based on my journey, and so I got the opportunity to learn directly from James, but I brought it to the character that he's learning by sitting on the plane next to him versus sitting at James's home or what have you. And so, but the life lesson there is around how we can bring synchronicity into our lives, meaning how we can lean into our intuition more when stuff happens, so it happens for us and not to us. In the book, it gives the example like if you run into somebody over and over again, they probably have a message for you. So when are you going to lean in and finally say, I need to talk to this person and find out what the message is? And so in the book, Treb talks about when he was younger, he went into the grocery store multiple times to see he ended up seeing his friend's nephew. So like his good friend's nephew, and the kid didn't even really know who he was, but he kept seeing him and he's like, I wonder what that kid has for me. So eventually after the third time, he sat down with him and he explained to the kid said, I don't know what message I have for you. So they just chatted, and it came up that the kid was looking for a job. He had just lost his job as a delivery driver, and Treb, his company, needed a delivery driver. So he said they hadn't even started advertising yet, but he hires the kid. But here's where it gets really trippy is he hires the kid, and then the kid starts coming over. He sees him as a mentor, so he starts coming over to Treb's house for suppers and stuff. He meets Treb's niece, and then they get together. And then what happens is Treb's niece gets mugged outside of her apartment, and that kid jumps to her rescue, gets stabbed, still lives, but basically the kid saves his niece's life.
Mm.
And so the synchronicity part of it is like he leaned into, why am I seeing this kid? And the end result is he ended up getting basically like a person in his family that he's really close with, a kid that becomes his protege, somebody that actually is really good for their company and does the job really well, and somebody that saved his niece's life. But I mean, don't we all have, now it might not be that dramatic, but don't we all have these circumstances where we see somebody over and over again, but we never question why?
Yeah.
Why am I, or we see them call all the time. Sometimes I think it's just us we're on the right track. And sometimes there's really big meaning. A weird example, which I don't know what the meaning will be yet. And I write, in the book, I talk about writing a synchronicity journal where you keep track of these things. So this is my brand new one. I just started writing them down, things that happen that, again, they can't be coincidence. And so this morning when I woke up, my common law wife told me she had a dream last night that she was playing golf with her ex-husband. And like, there wasn't much to the story. She just said it was weird. I was playing golf with him. And you would think I'm making this up. I got a message on LinkedIn about 5 minutes later from somebody saying, yeah, I'm thinking about going to, like, when I'm not traveling, I live in Atlantic, Canada. And there's a place called Halifax, Nova Scotia. He said, I'm thinking of going there to play golf. And I'm wondering if you know of any good golf courses I could go to. This is 5 minutes after she told me about a dream with her ex playing golf. Now, I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but that doesn't seem like it's random. Now, having said that, what I think the reason the person reached out to me is I don't think he's going to play golf there at all. He lives in England. I think he's trying to use that to open up the conversation and try to sell something to me.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, because he sent me an in-mail on LinkedIn, which means he had to pay for that in-mail to send me when he has 7,000 people on his network, which means he has somebody that's from Halifax that he could have searched, not the person he doesn't know. But it doesn't matter. To me, it's like there's still a meaning to that. Now, I don't know what to do with that one. Whatever the meaning is, I don't know. So that one, I just kind of accept that, it's the universe reminding me to pay attention to these things. But then there's other ones where, like, somebody canceled an interview, a really big interview one time, and they had given me the wrong address, and then they canceled the interview. I was in Miami. I said, well, I guess I'm just going to go to the beach and hang out, I guess, because I got to leave tomorrow. And I'd only flown in for 2 interviews, and that was one of them. Well, a friend of mine reached out and said, Corey, aren't you in Miami this weekend? And I said, yeah. And she said, oh, remember that guy I told you that lives in Toronto that I wanted you to interview? And I said, yeah. She said, well, it turns out he moved back to Miami. Is there any chance you could interview him while you're there? And I just had an interview canceled. So it opened up my afternoon. Well, I said, well, check with him first. So she reached out to him and he said, you're not going to believe this. I had 3 things booked and they all got rescheduled. So now I have the afternoon free. So both him and I had the day free. We did the interview, but at the end of the interview, he said, who else can I connect you with for this project? And I said, well, I'm not going to abuse our new relationship, so I'm not going to ask for that. He goes, well, how about if I come up with somebody, I'll text you. And I said, oh, yeah, that sounds great. And by the time I got to the hotel, I had a text from him saying, how about Les Brown and Bob Proctor? And, these are 2 icons in the self-help world. I'm like, yeah, that'll work. And so he sent me 2 texts and he said, meet Corey. I like him. He's doing cool stuff. You guys got to do it. And both of them said anything for him. And then I ended up getting to interview Bob before he passed, and I've interviewed Les 7 times since. What I bring that up is to say that whenever Tiffany messaged and said, hey, I got my friends now in Miami, I could have just said, you know what? I don't care. I'm mad now. This guy canceled an interview. I'm going to the beach. I don't care about your friend. I don't care about doing this interview. I leaned into it because I felt, what are the odds that I'd have a replacement interview the one day I'm in Miami? And then what are the odds that his 3 things would be canceled? If I ignore that synchronicity, that's on me.
Yeah,
So
and life is always happening for us. Life is always happening for us. And universe is always giving us the ways to get to our goals and, purpose of life. And when you are on purpose in life, then I think everything just falls in place, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's really in the book. That's what the idea is to show people is these things are happening, like you say, for us all the time. Sometimes we don't know how to lean in because, like I said, it's just like, oh, I saw the number 111. Well, I think that just means you're on the right track, but I don't have any proof to that, but I don't know what else to do with it. So the numbers one, I just accept, okay, it's telling me I'm on the right path. But there's other ones where it's like, again, it happens and you're like, I can either lean into this or I can ignore it. And honestly, most people don't see it or they ignore it. And so in the book, I'm trying to make the case for we got to stop ignoring it. If you see somebody 75 times this week, and you don't see other people 75 times,
Yeah.
they probably do have a message for you. Like,
Yes.
why are you taking the same pattern as them? And honestly, I don't care. Like, people will say to me, what about when you buy a car? You buy a new car and then you see it everywhere. Well, you could argue, well, is that because you're acknowledging it now? So now you're actually driving the same path as the same cars, or is it you just finally woke up and started noticing them? I don't know which is the right one, and I don't care. All I know is you see more of the same car.
Yeah.
You get to decide what to do with that. Maybe that means, by the way, you bought the right car. That just means you made the right decision with the car. It's just reminding you made the right decision. Again, I don't think we always have to know what they mean. I think we just accept that some tell us we're on the right path. This is how I look at it. And then others, they're telling us you need to lean into this. Or the third one could be, it's just reminding us that somebody's looking over us. So as an example, I just did a talk in Miami a month ago. I talked about this. I don't have it in front of me, but I have this poker chip I carry around that has the letters PMA on it, and it stands for positive mental attitude. I shared this at the event, but I couldn't find the poker chips. So somebody asked me if they could use a pen to write on the evaluation forms we handed out. So when I went to get it, that poker chip came out in my hand. So there's this one girl that was really intrigued by the poker chip and asked a bunch of questions. So I said, I got to go show it to her. So I brought it over. It's a red poker chip. And she tried to guess what PMA was, and she got close, but she didn't get it. And then I said, do you want this, by the way? Because I knew it would become maybe a story she would share other people, and it's just a good way to pass that energy on. So she said, sure. And then not long after, she started crying. And I thought, what did I do? I didn't think I did anything wrong. She ended up telling me she tries to not think about it much, but her boyfriend died of an overdose 6 months before. And when he was in AA, and in AA, they gave out colored poker chips. And the last poker chip he gave her was a red poker chip. The last one he showed her that he had from AA. And I just gave her a red poker chip.
Wow.
So from her perspective, it was him saying, I'm still watching over you. Now, you can put whatever meaning you want on it, but what are the odds of that happening?
Yeah. It's
I
like,
just take it, I'm on the right path.
yeah. Intuition is much more powerful than logic.
100%. I agree totally.
Yeah.
But I think we have to lean into it with our logic. Like, we have to tell ourselves, you got to pay attention to this. Don't just ignore them.
Yes. It's all about awareness, like how aware you are in your life and life conditions, like what circumstances are showing up. How can you connect the dots? How can you just make meaning in the context of your own life? And
absolutely. And I will say, the book, one of the things that I really tried to do with the book is I wanted to make it practical, and I wanted to make it, I was trying to help the person that's not spiritual, like the spiritual skeptic like me. And in fact, Robert, the younger guy in the story, he's a spiritual skeptic. So I created that so that when Treb would say, well, what about this? Then Robert would say, isn't that just a coincidence? So I wanted the doubtful person because I felt the reader could be like that. I'm trying to reach people that normally spiritual books don't reach. Now, it's not a fully spiritual book at all. It's very practical. But I'm just saying, anything with spirituality in it, often it's like the spiritual guru is preaching to the person that's already spiritual. So who's learning something new? I wanted to reach the people that are spiritual skeptics. And so I felt in the book there had to be a skeptic. But having said that, also the skeptic, Robert, wants practical advice. He doesn't just want the synchronicity part. He wants practical. So the other side of the book is there's very practical life lessons. For instance, one of the lessons is about the importance of saying no as much as you say yes or more. And so I share both in the book, and it's from my interviews with thought leaders, that what I've learned is thought leaders or influencers say no 20 to 50 times more than everybody else. A lot of us are stuck on yes because that's how we were raised, like me in a small town. I was taught to say yes and figured out how to do it later. And then I start studying these influencers and I'm like, oh my God, they're all saying no all the time. Oh, the only thing they're saying yes to is the stuff that'll move the needle, the stuff that they're aligned with. But everybody else seems to just say yes. Yeah, I'll help you move your furniture, even though I just hurt my back last week. We say yes to everything. And so again, this was an awakening for me. So I shared it in the book, and the idea of maybe no is more powerful than yes. Maybe we need to start practicing our no muscle. Well, honestly, that's more practical than synchronicity, right? That's very practical to say, most thought leaders say no. Here's how they do it. Here's how they don't burn a bridge. Here's how you can do it too.
yeah, and our culture, you're right that our culture trains us to be a yes person. It's like we're not expected to say no, right? Our elders don't want to listen to us, like, when we say no, we are just judged. We can't say no because that hurts people. And as a result, we condition ourselves to say yes, not just to the other people to please them, to make them happy, but also to the wrong opportunities and not so right opportunities, I mean to say, that come our way. Because perhaps we don't want to miss out on them and, just want to grab it all. This is like, and also I would like to say that saying yes is, of course, saying yes all the time is stressful and frustrating, especially when it happens at the cost of our own happiness. But then we feel guilty for saying no because that is so much ingrained within us, and we feel that we are hurting people and we are being selfish. So how do we overcome that feeling? What do you think about it?
So there's honestly, from my experience, there's multiple angles to that or sides to that, because there's the part about yourself psychologically. How do you deal with the fact that it's hard for you? It's outside your comfort zone. I will say this. I share a quote in the book by a person that I had the chance to interview multiple times, Neale Donald Walsch, who wrote the book Conversations with God. And he has this quote that says, life begins at the end of our comfort zone.
Yes.
And I believe that to be true. And we talk about that in the book. Like most of my journey, most of my experiences in life started at the end of my comfort zone. So the first part about saying no is you need to get outside your comfort zone. And I find the easiest way to do that is to start with little no's. So
Yes.
easier, so for example, somebody emails you and they're trying to sell you something and you're not even in the business to buy that. So like, let's say you work for somebody else and somebody's trying to sell you a product you can sell, but you don't even have a business. Well, that's an easy no. But what I'm saying is some people might just ignore that person because it's easier to ignore them than to feel guilty saying no. What I'm saying is that's an easy no. So just say no to that one. Just say, I'd love to help, but it's just not a fit for me. Sorry. But so
That makes
start with ones
sense.
that are going to hurt relationships and family members and everything else. Start with those. It's building a muscle. It's like lifting weights. So you
Yeah.
have to start small. So build a muscle. Give yourself rewards when you say no. So you'll want to feel like excited that I can say no to this. That's how I would start. But then the other side to it is also figuring out what a no is to you is very liberating. So for me, I have a thing in my wallet. I don't even know if I can find it quick enough to show it to you, but I have a thing in my wallet that I wrote that says, is this it? Let's just see if this is it. Yeah, it is. I think it's on hotel stationery, but it says inspire, educate, entertain, motivate, donate. That's my mission statement. So my mission statement is to be the guy who inspires, educates, entertains, motivates, and donates. And so with knowing that, then basically, if you ask me to take something on, I can pretty quickly figure out if it's any of those or all of those. So if it's going to cover off 0 of those, it's an easy no without regret. If it's going to be 4 or 5 of those, it's an easy yes without regret. So that for me is figuring out how I know what a no and a yes is figuring out what's aligned with me. If I want to be an amazing parent and somebody wants to bring me on a show to talk about how much it sucks to be a parent, that's not in alignment with me. And
Yes.
so having a mission statement, which we talk about in the book, is also a powerful way to say no, because then you know what a no and a yes is. But then the last piece to it is once you start having to say those big, hard no's to family members and friends, one person I interviewed gave me this example and I started using it and it's rarely failed me. I'm not going to say it never has because you still have personalities involved. People are still going to get bothered, but it's helped me and it's worked really well most of the time. Basically, what she said is she was her business, her and her husband kind of ran it together and they were very family oriented people. All their employees knew that. So when people would ask them to take something on, they would say, you know what, I would love to help you out. She would say, but let me check with Brett to make sure we don't have any plans for this weekend. And if we don't have plans, I can probably help you out. If we do have plans, I'll try to find somebody else who can help you out. Can I get back to you in a couple of days? And what she found is it was really hard for people to get mad at her by taking that approach. So what she said, though, is when she got back to them in a couple of days, most often they'd be like, oh, I already got it figured out. They had forgot they even asked her. The big thing was they didn't get mad at her initially because they knew that she was trying to put her family first. And you can figure out what family is for you. You know, like if you don't have kids and a spouse or a partner, don't make that up. If your friends and that know that, they're going to know you're. But I'm just saying, figure out what a no and a yes is for you, and then say that's the reason, right? Like you could say, like, I almost burned out last month because I was taking on too much. Is it okay if I really sit with this and try to decide if it's going to burn me out? Who's going to get mad at you for saying I want to avoid a burnout? If they
Yeah.
do, they're not. You shouldn't care anyway at that point if they don't care about whether that happens to you. So that's a way you can do it. And basically, I found that honestly changes everything. It makes it easy to say no. You don't burn a bridge. You don't have unhappiness. There's less tension. So it's just a matter of figuring out how you can say no. And I think you'll find once you start getting better at it, then you don't have to it's
Yeah.
not, the first ones are going to always be the hardest. So start
Yeah.
small.
Yeah, it just becomes a part of your life. And also, it makes a lot of sense that when you have your personal mission statement, you have some filter that you can just, run that through what I want to say yes to, what I want to say no to. And then it makes more sense. And then perhaps you can be honest about it that it does not align with me on the, on a deeper level, or this does not match my personal mission statement or something like that. You can be honest with that. That makes people understand about it. Yeah, that's a great strategy.
Oh, thank you so much.
Corey, how did you double your income by saying the word arigato? And I would also like to say something about that because when I read that book by Ken Honda, Happy Money, it was like arigato was something like, okay, this is like, okay, you say that to be grateful for money or something. But this is really interesting. I would love to know from you, how did you do that?
Yeah. So I guess arigato. So Ken Honda, he is for those that don't know him, he wrote a book called Happy Money.
Mhm.
And I've had the opportunity to interview Ken multiple times. And so with Ken, the whole idea of happy money intrigued me. And I think I have an okay relationship with money. I mean, I'm not as great as he does, but maybe better than others do. But the book really spoke to me because it was so, again, same idea. It was very abstract. And at the same time, it was still an exercise. Like it was still a strategy. And so what that exercise and strategy is, there's two sides to this. There's happy money, what that means, which basically my interpretation of it is the money in your wallet or your purse or even digitally. How did you acquire it? Did you acquire it by serving others? Did you acquire it by making others super happy? Did you acquire it by serving with purpose? By living with passion. So in other words, the money has good energy around it.
Yeah.
At the same time, when you give out money, like let's say you pay a light bill or pay your bills or whatever, what's your energy around it? Are you grateful that you have the money to be able to pay those things? Or are you unhappy and pissed off at the money that it's sending out? So happy money, he learned this because some lady asked to use his wallet
Mm.
and check it out. And she went through his money and then she sniffed it and put it in a different order. And she said, "I'm good news, Mr. Honda, you have happy money." And he said, "Well, that sounds good, but what does that mean?" And then she explained to him that his money was happy because it was acquired and given out with gratitude, basically.
Yeah.
And so that was really powerful to me. And then one of the things he said in the book was about arigato, and basically, means thank you, or you could say it's about gratitude. But so what he talked about is every time money goes out and comes in, actually looking at it, whether it's physical money, whether it's digitally on your bank statement, but looking at it and saying arigato, being grateful for the money. So I started doing that where, like, if I went to a big box store, like so a Walmart or whatever, I literally not only like give the money out, but when it says approved on my debit thing, I literally feel like energy pushing the money towards them. And so I literally feel it physically. I didn't start that way. At first, I just started saying it. I will say the harder part is saying arigato for money going out than coming in. Most people can say yay for money coming in,
Yeah.
but to say going out was the real challenge. So I started trying this and I said, I want to stay really, a lot of times I start and then I get really busy and then I get the squirrel syndrome or the new shiny object and get moved in a different direction. With this, I wanted to try it long term. And so I said, basically with the journey of it and pushing it out, I said, I want to try this for long term. And so I've done it not every single day, but I would say most days for probably 3 years now.
That's a
Um,
pretty long time.
it is. The interesting part is I find I forget more now to say it when it's coming in, which you think would be the easier one. I
Yeah.
actually have an easier time remembering to say it when it goes out. Probably because you're like, if you're paying for something with a card, you're physically seeing it go out.
Yeah.
Whereas when it comes in, it might happen while I'm sleeping, if it's online or whatever.
Yes.
Having said that, what the result was is I decided we do a boot camp once or twice a year. And when we were doing the boot camp last year, or the year before, I decided we had Ken on. And before we had him on, I wanted to share what had happened after almost a year of using Happy Money and saying arigato. And so I showed my PayPal. I've never done this in my life before. I showed our PayPal revenue and showed that it was up by, I think it was 110% over the previous year. And the only thing I'd done different that I know of was say arigato. So then a year later, we did it again. And again, PayPal only knows from the previous year to the current year. So it showed we were up like 119%. So we doubled it and then doubled the new double again,
Nice. Yeah.
back-to-back years. And by the way, this year we're up again. And yes, obviously there's other variables, like you have more referrals, if you have more clients, the business is 2 years older, all that stuff. But arigato is the only thing for sure that consistently we've done that's shown it to increase. So I literally feel saying arigato and being grateful for money has doubled our revenue.
That really makes sense to me, because everything is energy in this world, and money is nothing but energy. So it's like it's seen like it should be seen as a person. The way we see somebody, the money is also kind of person, the same kind of energy. And when we give that gratitude, because most of the people would not be really happy when the money goes out. So, when coming in, it's okay. It's easy to say arigato, but when it's going, as you said, that when it's going away from you, you feel bad about it, that you don't really like that feeling. So yes, this is a really important lesson. And anybody like who's listening to us right now, just try this and see how the money grows for them. Corey, that's really fascinating. Your book looks really, really intriguing, and I'm looking forward to reading your book. And when is it coming out?
So it's kind of it depends when somebody's listening, but the book technically is on pre-order right now, meaning people can order it today. Like it's at all the online stores. You can order it today. As far as the shipping date, it's June 25th. So we're really close now. So it's like, what's that, a month and 5 days?
Yeah.
So technically you could order it today, and in a little over a month, it'd be in your hand. So the good part is, it's harder when you're at pre-order and it's 10 months out or a year out, because people order it and they're like, now they forget they ordered it by the time they get it. Whereas now we're getting so close that I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So if somebody's listening to this after June 25th, then it's already out. If you're listening to this before June 25th, 2024, and that really means if you're listening in the next few weeks, it's still available. It's on pre-order, and you can order it now. The one benefit, if you hear it on pre-order, and I can't say how long it'll last after pre-order, but the one benefit if you get it on the pre-order phase is you also get 5 bonuses that come with it. And so there's 5 unique bonuses that come with it in the order stage. There's actually a few extras, but there's 5 guaranteed that you get instantly. One of them, for example, for those that ever want to get into speaking, it's literally a training that we've used to help countless people land their TEDx talk, which is, a lot of people, literally people pay thousands of dollars to try to land a TED talk. And this is like basically you get it for the $16.95. You get basically a condensed version of the training we've done around that for people. But there's 5 cool bonuses like that. We also do that live boot camp I mentioned. If somebody orders it before our next live boot camp, they also get a free ticket to come to the 3-day virtual live boot camp, which is a huge event we do. And then also we're going to be doing, we don't know the date yet, but in the fall, we're going to be doing a book club around the book. And I'm going to do 2 nights, I think, where it's going to be like super secretive. We're going to have, I can't say names, but we're working on some massive names that'll come on for like 20-minute appearances. And then we'll go into breakout rooms and discuss the book. And so we're going to do a really big book club. My idea there is I want to get people to crack open the book and actually read it. And so the book club, I think, will help with that. But it'll also be an exciting event that people would normally pay for anyway. So that's also going to be happening in the fall. Well, the reason I bring this up is if you buy the book before the event happens, you'll also be able to get in live for that. So like you'll be able to get in for 2 live events that would normally probably cost thousands of dollars. You'll be able to get access to 5 instant bonuses, a lot of stuff for buying a $16.95 US book.
Yes. We have great reasons to pre-order the book.
Yeah. And that honestly, the goal is that the pre-orders, a lot of people don't know this, but all the orders that take place before your publication date, which in my case is June 25th, count towards the first week of sales.
Yeah.
So if you want to get on a big list or you want to have a lot of orders at once to go towards that, the best time to do it is before the book's out. Once it's out, it's hard to start your launch and in 7 days sell a lot of books. So it's a lot easier to build up to it over time and get to the launch date, and you've already done a lot on the back end. So that's why we're rewarding people who buy it early. It's because it helps us a lot on that first week of sales.
Right. Thank you very much. And that's really, really wonderful. Thank you very much for your time and presence today. I wish and hope your book reaches everyone who needs it.
Amazing. And can I tell people where to get the book? Because I just realized I didn't tell. I say that because obviously you can get it on the retail places. But what I recommend is we have a website we set up called This Is The Book. Thisisthebook.com. The benefit of getting it there is when you go on that site, it gives you 3 steps. The first one involves there's the link to go buy it off your favorite retailer. So the great part is you pay no difference. You're still getting it off the retailer. But then when you come back with the order number, that's how you get all those bonuses. Go buy it directly on Amazon. We don't have any way to send you the bonuses. buy thisisthebook.com, and that way we can deliver some bonuses to you as well. Just wanted to add that in.
Awesome. And I'm going to include that link in the show notes section so that people can use that link, go to your website and order from there so that they get the bonuses.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Sometimes the key to success lies not in the opportunities we seize, but in the ones we thoughtfully decline. That's it for now. I'll see you next time with another amazing conversation. Stay happy and safe. If you loved what you heard, don't forget to hit subscribe, share the wisdom, and throw in a cheeky review.